I view Earth as a school for souls, and daily life is our classroom. To accept our thoughts and feelings arising as natural to us in that moment. Accepting means coexisting with them. You don't have to fix them, run from them, obey them. Just like as you would in meditation, notice them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have today a best-selling author called Dan Millman, a guest who doesn't need any introduction due to this incredible book, due to this incredible movie. Dan, great to see you. Hi.
It's nice to have a chance to speak with you, Maxim.
Dear Dan, there are so many questions from our community. How would you define a wise life? Or let me ask another question. What is the purpose, your opinion on why do we come here on this planet?
Well, those are two very good questions and important ones. As far as defining a wise life, to me, it's about being in touch with reality. People who are completely out of touch with reality, we might term them insane, catatonic, living in their own world. People who are completely in touch with the reality of this present moment as it unfolds, without adding all our baggage, all our associations, meanings, projections, and complications. Those who just are in touch with the reality of this moment as it arises, much like young children, we call enlightened, or at least sane. So to me, that is wisdom. A more conventional definition would be able to anticipate or understand the consequences of our actions to others and to ourselves in the world. But as far as why we're here, the bigger question, well, since I don't know that and can't presume to know it, I view Earth as a school for souls, and daily life is our classroom. I see daily life and the challenges we meet, whether it's big challenges or small everyday ones, are forms of spiritual weight training to strengthen our spirits. So that gives me a purposeful sense, understanding that my daily life, whatever happens, what we call it good or bad, is always, it's like being an athlete in training. And that's why I view everyone as a peaceful warrior in training.
That's great. Dan, thank you so much. How would you describe this purpose in life? Do we have a kind of free will? Do we decide some of these things which we observe or live at that moment? Do we decide it before? What do you think?
Well, the answer is yes and no, as far as free will goes. From a conventional view, our everyday view in day-to-day living, sure, we make choices every day and we can change our mind at the last minute. So we apparently have free will to make choices and be responsible for those choices we've made and learn from them. However, from a transcendental view, maybe we have to take a fresher look, because even though we can make choices, can we choose what we're going to choose? Or is that already hardwired or predestined in some sense, shaped by all our experiences, prenatal and then after we were born, where we choose to choose certain things and not choose others? So that's the paradox, that free will is an illusion and free will also does exist. And I think it's best to treat it as, since we live in daily life, I think it's best to treat it as real, even though in some sense we may be informed about its illusory nature, and maybe we're just doing what we do and being who we are.
Sounds great. Then the next question is, what would you tell to a person who is quite nervous in life and has a lot of fears? What does help, your opinion on?
Well, the boxing coach, Cus D'Amato, once said that heroes and cowards, male or female, feel exactly the same fear. They just respond differently. Mm-hmm. So, I used to tell my students in martial arts classes and in gymnastics training, the only difference between fear and excitement is whether we're breathing. So we can take a deep breath. That's in our control. We can relax our bodies. But regarding how not to feel anxiety or how not to feel fear, I can't help you because I feel all those things. I feel every emotion someone can feel, but I focus not so much on fixing my emotions or having just the right thoughts or a totally quiet mind. We have less control over the discursive thoughts that pop up moment to moment in our everyday experience. Thoughts happen to us. We don't say, I think I'm going to think this thought next. Mm-hmm. Thoughts just occur. They arise in our field of awareness, and we deal with them. The purpose of meditation, of course, is to see, not to stop the mind, but to see it, the illusory nature of thoughts, not to take them quite as seriously. Lao Tzu once said, as soon as you have a thought, laugh at it. And he was saying much the same thing. So because we have less control over what thoughts appear or what emotions pass through us, like the weather, I've chosen to focus on what I do. That's what I bring into the world. What I do moment to moment, despite what I'm feeling or not feeling. Most of us make the assumption that to live a spiritual life, a good life, we have to somehow fix our insides and fix our thoughts and fix our emotions and have all the right thoughts and emotions so we can finally live well. There is another approach which I teach, which is part of this approach to living I call the Peaceful Warrior's Way, which is more centered around what we have more control over, which is our behavior, how we move our arms and legs. Doesn't mean we can will ourselves to do an Olympic performance in gymnastics. That takes a particular kind of training. But it does mean that we have more control than we give ourselves credit for over what we do moment to moment, whether or not we feel motivated, whether or not we feel free of fear. So that old saying, feel the fear and do it anyway, has a lot of basis, not just as a gymnast I learned that, but in everyday life. And there are times we need to listen to our fear. You know, it's been said, you probably heard this, fear can be a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Mm-hmm. So when fear is objective, if we could be injured or killed in some situation, then we need to pay attention, prepare, avoid situations that may be dangerous if they're not necessary. But if the fear is subjective, and most fears are, the fear of being embarrassed, looking foolish, not being liked, those are subjective fears. They don't break bones. We can get over that. So if it's a fear subjective, cut through it. If it's on your purpose. In fact, there was a wonderful set of guidelines by a Japanese a wise man once, who advised us to first to accept our thoughts and feelings arising as natural to us in that moment. Accepting means coexisting with them. You don't have to fix them, run from them, obey them. Just like as you would in meditation, notice them. The second thing is, what is your purpose? What is your goal or aim in that moment? Most of us, if we're living on purpose, have a goal and a purpose for what we do, whether it's walking into a room or joining a conversation. We have a purpose. So notice your purpose. And the third guideline is do what needs to be done in line with your purpose, not someone else's. This is how to live a purposeful life, despite whatever feelings are coming or going or thoughts. I had to do this as an athlete. I wasn't always filled full of confidence when I went into a competition, but I knew what I was there for, and I did my best to do it.
Wow, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Dan. Well, you know, we got a lot of different perspectives. There are some people, they like say, they're like things like the Buddhism or the East Asia, like be calm, be aware of the present moment. And there are also like Western technique, how to get a goal done, right? And we are somehow like souls between these two worlds. How you connect this in your life, not to be too much a part of one of these two, but connecting them.
You're asking the best questions. You must be a wise man yourself. Well, first of all, yes, many of us in Western society, Europe, United States, elsewhere, in developed countries, we've worked hard at the Western solution to happiness, the Western promise, which is external achievement, the extroverted promise. Achieve, meet your goals, succeed, gain wealth and influence and status and all that stuff. And those who have done some of that, sometimes we get disillusioned because it doesn't necessarily make us happy, except for maybe a little while, each little triumph. So we turn to the Eastern solution, which is about going inside, meditating, inner work, the more introverted approach that all the answers lie within. If you fix yourself within, the world changes, and so on. And there's some truth to that. And yet I've been to the East, and I've seen some grumpy monks. So I don't think the answer, as you've implied, is in the Western solution or the Eastern solution. It's in the best of both. That's why I advise my students to keep their head in the clouds, but their feet on the ground, embracing the best of our humanity, male and female, or other, whatever that may be, East and West, the high and the low, to embrace life. And that's my view. So I have no adversity to conventional life and striving, finding a purpose and working toward it. On the other hand, there are times we need to step back, go to a retreat or just an internal retreat, check inside, and also work on that aspect of our being.
That's great. And your astrology is fish, as far as I know?
Pisces, yes.
Pisces, right. Do you believe your soul was making this decision before you came here to this body in order that it waited for the perfect moment, perfect time to get you these attributes of a Pisces?
Well, of course, I haven't the faintest idea. I can't know that any more than I can know whether reincarnation is real or anything else. We have beliefs about that, different approaches that console or are meaningful to us. So I can't really know that, but I like the idea. I live on the basis that my soul chose everything that would happen to me on some level, if there is a soul. And again, can't know that either, but certain things we intuit or have a connection with. So I choose to believe that because it makes my life more resourceful. So if something difficult happens, it's not, oh, why me? Is God punishing me? Or all those negative associations and beliefs. Instead, I go, well, if my soul chose this on some level, might as well make the best of it, because that's all we can really, really do. It struck me recently that we can't control the outcomes in our life. And anybody who says, I can guarantee you success, well, it depends how you define success. But we can't control the outcomes. However, we can control our efforts. And by making a good effort over time, which is in our control, we're more likely to succeed than if we don't make the effort. So in a sense, making good efforts over time is a form of success. And even though you haven't asked me, I'll just offer this. I define success as making regular progress toward a goal that's meaningful to us.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you for these. Then the last questions, they're like small ping pong questions. What was the best advice you've ever received?
These the best advice. I've received much good advice and, more important, good examples in my life. I might as well mention here that I just recently completed my 18th and perhaps final book, a memoir. Finally, it was time to write a memoir. In other words, not mixing fact and fiction as I did with Peaceful Warrior or my other books, which are basically novels. But Peaceful Warrior is mostly autobiographical, my first book, but there are fictional elements for the sake of the story and for the sake of the teaching. And this new book, the memoir called Peaceful Heart, Warrior Spirit, is going to be coming out in the US end of this year and early next year, and very likely in Germany at the same time, in the German language, of course. So it's made me more reflective, and I do relate my decade study with 4 significant mentors who influenced my life and work by their example and by their teachings, radically different types of individuals who became my teachers. And in a way, the book tells us really about it's a cautionary tale, but also a guiding tale about the spiritual search and what's good about it and what's not so good about it. So I've been reflective about this, and the idea of answering one question, the best advice. How can I sort what I learned from these 4 mentors and earlier teachers and my wife, Joy, who has been a role model for me and my North Star? I can't sort it out to one bit. I can share something that's very important to me right now, and perhaps to your listeners, viewers, that some time ago, I stopped comparing myself to other people. By comparing ourselves to someone else, it's a profound disrespect for our own process. And so I guess the best advice might be, that I could give at least, is to trust the process of our life unfolding. You know, faith is not just a belief in God or a belief in something else. Faith is the courage to live as if everything that happens is somehow for our soul's highest good and learning. So that was a lot of words, but that is the advice I would probably share.
Wonderful, wonderful. Really strong advice. Do not compare, otherwise you do not respect your process. Wonderful. Wow, it's full of wisdom. Next small question is, how would you define a successful life in one sentence?
Well, I'll repeat no, that's fine. I'll repeat what I said earlier, that I believe, you see, if the top of the mountain represents success, then we fail every step of the way because we haven't reached the top yet. But if more realistically, we define success as making regular progress toward that goal that's meaningful to us, whatever that mountaintop is for each of us, then to me, that is success. Not just the conventional meaning of finally making a lot of money or having a career that, breaks loose. So that to me is success. And it can happen every step of the way. You take one step up the mountain, hey, pat yourself on the back. You've just had a small success. And then another one, and then another one. To me, that's more realistic and more encouraging to people than the big destination. In the Peaceful Warrior movie, there's a scene in which Dan and Socrates walk to the top of a big hill. And the character, Dan, has a realization in the movie. Hey, Socrates, I just realized it's the journey that makes us happy, not just the destination. And that's good to remember. It's good advice because most of our lives are on the journey. But without a destination in mind, there is no journey. We just wander around. So I believe forming a purpose day to day, because when we reach that mountaintop, we're going to have to find another mountain to climb. So day to day, to find these small purposes and complete them, move toward them, make progress toward them. That is a purposeful life that absorbs us in the moment. And that's what I would share at this point in closing.
Thank you. Dan, and the last question I have to ask you, because I checked 3 times Google before in order to get your age, and I still cannot believe that it tells us 75. What are you doing to look so great and so full of vitality? And I mean, if I see you like this, I could also say 52, and it would be not incredible. How do you do it?
Well, I wish I could bottle it and had a formula. I think overall, I continue to, I feel young. We're always the same age inside. But I think overall good health habits, no time to go into all that, but there's no one secret, I don't think. Some of it's genetics. I have been told that I physically look younger than my chronological age of 75 right now. But I still do handstands, did one this morning in the park, swung to one on the parallel bars. So I try to stay active, and my wife, just keeping up with my wife really helps keep me young, and have the 3 grandchildren.
Well, Ben, thank you so much. We will link your events in Germany. You will also speak to the German and Austrian Swiss community. We will link all your wonderful books, which change a lot of millions of people and the hearts, the minds. Thank you so much for your time.
I look forward to meeting you in person sometime, Maxim, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Dan. Ich freue mich, dass du bis zum Ende geschaut hast. Kennst du schon unseren Genie-Podcast? Darin beleuchten wir die Biografien von Michael Jackson, Albert Einstein oder Leonardo da Vinci und du erfährst, wie dir die praktische Umsetzung in unterschiedlichen Lebensbereichen gelingt. Entweder hier klicken oder hier den Kanal dauerhaft abonnieren.